to begin our program tonight with much excitement, I'd love to introduce you to our host and partner for this evening, the editor-in-chief of Calibre magazine and Academy member of the Grand Prix Horologie de Genève, Mr. Carl Cunanan. Thanks, Carl.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this rainy afternoon in Manila. We are going to have a really fun day today. As you know, we're asked to do this type of thing a fair amount. Quite often we say no because we will only accept if it's a good reason to do so. And the way that Montblanc has been going for the last 2 years is a very good reason why. They have this combination of technology and history that's just amazing, and they produce some of the most intelligent and useful, but also the most beautiful movements that I've ever seen. So we are very happy that they have asked us to do that with them. So today we have an exciting day, and we're going to experience all the passion behind the people like Julian. You'll meet. He is a watchmaker, and he has some really fun opinions that we're going to get into. You can ask him and me any questions you want. It'll be fun. Let me introduce you now to the representative of Montblanc, Mr. Benjamin Go. He is the regional marketing director for Montblanc, Southeast Asia. Benjamin, hello.
Hi, Carl. Thanks for the introduction. Also, greetings from my side to everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm sure we will have a very engaging session. I would like first to give you an introduction of Montblanc, before then passing on the stage to both Carl and Julian, whom I know to be both very passionate about watch and watchmaking. And I'm sure the conversation will be super engaging. So let me begin by giving you a brief intro. So basically, Montblanc, we are a brand that is multi-category. Not only watches, we have writing, we have leather, we have watches. And our manufacturers are at the heart of each of these categories. Leather in Florence, our watches are in Switzerland, and our writing is in Hamburg. So tonight is all about watches. I introduce you to two of our manufacturers. The first being Villeray, which is a manufacturer that produces all of our in-house movements, founded in 1858, and they are our high-end manufacturer, of which Julien Mirabelle came from, by the way, but he's based here in Singapore with us now. The next manufacturer is from Leloc. This is where all the design of our watches happens, the prototyping of cases, dials, key components, as well as a very important process in the watchmaking of Montblanc watches, which is the 500-hour test. We put our watches through 500 hours of vigorous testing before we qualify them suitable to be able to come out on the market. So these are the two manufacturers in Montblanc. If we talk about watches, then we have a few milestones that I would like to highlight. First of all, it's the measurement of time. So we were already involved in timekeeping from the start. We started with being able to measure 1/5 of a second in 1911, and then we moved to 1/10 of a second, and now today we're able to measure the accuracy of 1 to 100th of a second since 1936. A few milestones that we have hit in terms of watches. I think in 2010 we came up with the Montblanc Time Writer Metamorphosis. Time Writer synonymous to us because we are known also for our writing instruments, so writing time. And Metamorphosis because it was a special movement where we could actually morph the watch face from a normal minute and second hand into a chronograph movement. Now the entire complication contains of 315 individual parts. That's the metamorphosis movement. This is on top of the chronograph Calibre 1629, which already has 252, which makes this piece containing about 567 individual components, which makes it at that time one of the most complicated contemporary timepieces. That was in 2010. And then, of course, in 2011, we then had another breakthrough, which was the Tourbillon bicylindric. And then in 2013, which was mentioned a little bit earlier, was the manufacture of the Exotropion. Now, the Exotropion, you will see some of the pieces later. It was the world's first tourbillon in which the rotating cage is smaller than the balance. So this allows the balance to be sitting on top of the plane and on a higher level, which also then explains the name exo, which is a Greek explanation for outside. So this complication super popular today, and we would have some of those pieces later that we can show. Now, without further ado, I would hand over the stage to Julien as well as Carl to go then into the product and the movement. So feel free to engage, ask all the questions you want. You have two very passionate watch people in the session today. So have fun, everyone, and enjoy the session.
Okay, now one of the things that I liked very much about Montblanc was that they had this combination. On one hand, you had the Minerva side, which, and we will see them, they have gorgeous movements. But on the other hand, you had watches that were like they have this great line of travel watches. One of them was this kind of you would see the change of the colors on the face. And the one we have here is, the one we're looking at today is called the Geosphere. This is what I find interesting, is that we have all these different travel watches, and you know them as well as I do, whether they're GMT, whether they're Duotime or whatever. And yet here we have Montblanc, who comes in with just a different look. And I very, very much appreciate watch companies that decide to do something a little bit different. And yet it's completely readable. If you look at it, the example here is one of their special editions that is, in this case, this is the one that is meant to commemorate a walk across the desert, which apparently is actually much harder than going up a mountain or down into a cave or something. The guy who did his name is Reinhold Messner, and he's known more for climbing mountains and so on. But he actually said, he actually found the need for timekeeping for whatever it is they used was actually more important during the desert, because there was just no frame of reference. There was absolutely nothing. You know, with a mountain climbing, you can say, okay, that's the next peak. That's my aim. That's my thing to do. With his crossing in the desert, there was really nothing to mark the time, basically, other than what was on his wrist. And to use, because of that, that's what he needed to do to time his food, his hydration, everything. So it's just a wild little choice of how to make a travel watch. We like it because it's just different, and we appreciate it. The next one that we're going to have a set of 3 chronographs here, and there's a reason why we're looking at these chronographs, and we'll find out later when we talk to Julien. The first one we want to look at, okay, this is the Origins. The Origins is actually a re-edition of an old military watch. And what's amazing is that if you look at the movement of this and you compare it to the original movement of that old military watch, and you look at the two of them side by side, they are amazingly similar. They're not like an homage. They're not, in a lot of ways, they're not combining stuff. It's amazing that the beauty of this movement, and this is a military movement. Okay, this is not a beauty safe queen type movement. This is a work-a-day, everyday movement. It's just the intricacy they have is gorgeous. And if we get a chance to talk about it later, we're going to talk about how when they would make these movements, they're making these things and they're staring out at the Swiss countryside, which is largely Alps and mountains, and that does have an effect on how they design things. You know, and I've been to some watch companies where what they're looking at outside is the graveyard that holds all of their ancestors. So, you know, I think seeing the mountain stop instead is a much better thing. This is a different chronograph. The Origins, it's very true to the original. They have another monopusher chronograph, which is the limited edition 100 pieces that we're going to see next, and that's a little bit different. That's a more modern take on it in general. Then we're going to go to the 1858 split seconds chronograph. This is just gorgeous. They use a different alloy for the case and everything, and it's this kind of a lime gold looking thing with green. But we're gonna have a discussion with Julien, because When I said that the Exotropion was the most complicated watch, he said, no, it's not. It's a split seconds. And he gave me a whole reason why. So we're going to have a discussion with him as to whether or not the split seconds is actually more complicated than an Exotropion. Now, these four watches that we just saw, these are part of the 1858 line. So that is, if you look at it, you see that these are the ones they take down into caves. These are the ones they take up into the mountains. But then the other model lines they have for Montblanc, we're going to go to next. One is the Montblanc Heritage Pithagore Small Seconds. This is a very limited edition run. And this is the simplest watch in the bunch because it's really just time telling. If you talk about complications and what they are, we had some serious complications up to the split seconds, and this is just a very simple one. But they're using, in this case, they're using a new movement. Are they? They're using a movement that's let's go into it. It's a new movement, but it's inspired by a historical movement, which was actually called the Pithagore. And it's available in a couple different colors. We like this one because this is very, very classic. So this is a great entry if you're looking for a classic watch. The other ones we saw were a bit more kind of daily wear type watches. This is clearly an elegant watch. Now, the last one we're going to look at is the Montblanc Star Legacy Suspended Exotropion, which, as Benjamin said, was kind of a groundbreaking thing at its time. And we'd like to go into that with Julian, because it'll be a great way to understand exactly what's important about it, how hard it was to make that thing external rather than internal, and so on. So what we're going to be doing now after that is we're going to go having the conversation with Julian, and we're going to let him basically take apart some watches for us and explain a little bit about which parts are important for which of the watches we talked about and so on. So now may I introduce you to Julian Mirabelle. He is a watchmaker from, he was most recently with Minerva. He now lives in Singapore. And he basically is a great person to talk to about what's really behind all this stuff. So may we now say hello to Julian.
Hi everyone, very happy to be here with you during this afternoon. We have so many things to say and so many things to show. So I think that no transition, we should start as fast as we can to highlight some of our products. Very quick introduction about myself. I'm from La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland, one of the mecca for watchmaking and for watchmaker. So actually, I started my school in 1995 until 2001. As I always say, you need to be lucky with your first experience when we're talking about factory. So I've been lucky enough to push the door of Minerva in 2001 and met Mr. Kabidou. And I still remember, like it was yesterday, I pushed the door on a Monday, and the Tuesday I was already working for this company, and I stopped 12 years after. So what's the reason to stay so long in one company where actually you can switch to another one, and get another 200 more for your salary at the end of the month, and get another 200 and change, is because since I joined the building, I found what I was looking for in terms of watchmaker job. It was really a pure daily happiness to see that we have an unlimited budget to create movement. And when I say unlimited, it means that even when we order the screw from the supplier, we ask the supplier to polish underneath the legs of the screw, even if it's not visible, even if it's not useful. But that was the philosophy of Mr. Kabidou back in the days. So yeah, what a place to do your job actually. So yeah, I've been very lucky enough to be a part of this adventure, and yeah, very happy to see now that in 2020, almost 20 years after, we still have the same quality and the same finishing on the Montblanc watches. So that make me always make me feel very happy and very proud.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much, Julian. What do you have for us today? What are you going to show us?
Okay, so I will not pick the watch by a specific order about all the I like them or not, but I think that maybe we can start with Geosphere, because as your introduction that you have done, I think you're very right. Montblanc need always, and maybe sometimes more than the other brands, surprise the watch lover and the collector all around the world. I think that Geosphere has been a very a successful collection since it has been launched. So for this year, we have a new collection, Geosphere, with a limited edition in rose gold. Sometimes it's like old timer, you will always have the same kind of design with this external disc on the outside of your dial with the differentiality. You activate this with a pusher or the crown. Sometimes give you some big headache, but for this one, the goal was like to come with something a little bit more fresh, something that you cannot see from another competitor. And I think at the end, the industry should to move a bit in this direction. Is you should to be really able to make difference about your design and your watches. So I think the mission is accomplished with the Geosphere was been launched and produced by Montblanc. So. To be frankly open and honest, we're using a supplier base, and only the complication on top will be in-house. So it's a mix between both. I don't think that is a secret, and I think we need to be also very honest. At the end, it's like I'd rather to have a mix between a supplier base and in-house complication and try to reach the market with what I consider as a fair value than only go for in-house movement and you know how much expensive are to develop some Calibre fully in-house. So I think like I used to remember about a few sentences for Mr. Lambert, but I think like sharing the fine watchmaking for a good value is a good concept. And I think that watch should not be always so expensive. And I think that if we can bring something new in terms of function, design, and look, I think we are good. So I will just explain one or two things about the function of the watch and the feature, because it's very unusual compared to all the different world timers that we have. It's a very simple watches to operate, I will say. So on the face, you have the North Hemisphere and the South Hemisphere. You have, of course, the hour, the minute, you have the date, and you have a second home time here. So how do you operate your watch when you want to do the setting? Extremely simple. We can see that we have different time zone. The 24 different time zone represent by a straight line on the North Hemisphere. And we can notice, and you can even more notice this one when you are in the dark, because we have a super mega nice super luminova who give a very nice look of the watch. But we have one line who's a little bit more thick, and actually this one will represent the London time. So the first thing that you have to do actually is to know which time is it in London. So then with the crown, you can select the time zone. So you don't need to take care about the hour or the minute at this moment. The first thing that you need to do is just to select the right time for London. As you can see with your subdial here for the North Hemisphere, you have a dark area who will be for the night, and you have a lighter color on top for the day. So I can just give you an example. If it's if it's 10 o'clock in London right now, my thick line representing London will face the 10 on the day area. And then the only thing that I need to do after is to set the hour of my local time. So local time actually will change hour by hour. Okay, and then of course that's the way you're changing the date of your current position. So now we are almost at 5 p.m. a little bit pour, so I just add it here. Last but not least, we have another little indication at 9 o'clock. And this one is another time zone that you can select. So if you want to have the time from your local place, like Switzerland for me, or anywhere, then you will just have to use the pusher on the side and you can correct it on the side. That was for the function. Beautiful dial with a black lacquer color. Something quite interesting also, the bi-directional bezel that we have on top. Is not always the case that the bezel are rotating clockwise and anti-clockwise. So I like to highlight also this one. I will say that is a punchy watches, mi-sporty, mi-elegant. Rose gold give a nice contrast with the bezel, the black. We have a nice alligator strap, and then I will just flip the watch. We have something quite interesting. The development of Montblanc has been quite good these last few years, and they're working very closely with some of suppliers who are able to come with some laser technology. I will say something that was not really easy to see. I will say back in the days, but we can see that now it seems that I'm not a big specialist of the laser technology, but it seems that they really improved themselves because they are really able to go to very fine details. So we can see the Mount Everest who's related to the spirit of exploration of the brand and especially of this watch. But we can see that we have some I was very surprised and to see the level of details that they are able to do. So it's quite interesting. We come with some brand new technology and add this to a nice design. So I think that this watch for this year has very good and positive selling point, and overall nice looking watch with a cool function and easy to operate.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Julian. Okay, you're saying that the in-house part of this was the module that you put over the basic movement. Was it hard to, because basically you have a GMT indication, you have a second time zone, and you have the primary local time zone. Whereas in many watches, including the ones we know that are called GMTs, the third indication is on the bezel, but that's not the case here. Was it hard to make a module that would actually do this simply and reliably?
So fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not there in Switzerland anymore. So I can only think a little bit about that. And my answer will be like, you start with no base. So actually, it means that you need to spend a bit of time around the table, as it had been the case for the perpetual calendar who has been developed by the team in Switzerland. I think that you need to spend a bit of time in Switzerland around the table to say that, okay, guys, we want to indicate the north, the south, we want to have another indication of time with the local time. So I think it's like, it's a pure R&D where you have no base, and then you need to discuss, construct, making some prototyping, testing, and every time you're doing some mistake or something, you need to go back. You need to go back to the base. So far is not the most crazy new complication movement, but you start with no base. So this is what I like also with Montblanc, is like we don't need just to have inspiration about what has been done in terms of movement complication. We can really create our own, and this has been the case for the Exotropion and for the Geosphere. So we can always come and surprise people with some of the watch.
Thank you very much, Julian. Next, we're going to be going into the other. We have two monopusher chronographs. Can you please explain to us how they are different?
Yeah, of course. I really need to do that. And at which point chronograph monopusher is very essential to me in a way that this is the essence of Minerva. And it's really it's really what makes Minerva famous to me is the amazing story about which one come first on the market with wrist-end watches chronograph. It's Minerva. And as we know all, especially you, because you're a big fan of watches, you know, I also love all the Longines 13ZN. I mean, how beautiful they are, you know, is some of the most beautiful movements you have back in the days, because they had the finishing and they had some extra touch about this. But when we want to talk about number, figure, date of creation, yeah, I'm really sorry, but I don't think someone can challenge us so much about chronograph monopusher. So we are not the best. We haven't done the huge, big number and all, but I think that at the end, yeah, we should be proud about that. So monopusher has been very famous for Minerva because they never stopped to produce mechanical watches, and they always been in close contact with the different army in Europe, because the goal was really to be sure that we can provide precise timing. I think that your audience as well as you know very well at which point watches was very useful back in the days, and they are very useless now in terms of function. We don't use it anymore to do anything except to cook pasta or know if your egg is ready. But back in the days, there was really a question of life and death to be able to feel your enemies. You know, when you're fighting during the night, you say, "Oh my God, is he far? Is he close? How can I adjust my cannon in terms of angle? I need to have precise timing." So I think that why this manufacturer never stopped to produce mechanical watches is because they were in advance compared to the other in terms of how good they were to give a precise timing, or were they good to separate the time to calculate the 100th of a second and so on. So it's why I think that the heritage is long and is an heritage that's very strong, and is a heritage that we should to really consider as good. So let me show you this watch after my very long introduction.
That's okay.
So here we are with the origin. So origin, I think it's clearly a tribute, is really a tribute about the Minerva movement. We can see that we have a bronze case, okay? So for the function, we are very basic. We're talking about monopusher. I don't think that Minerva quality movement, we will do something different. It's always monopusher, and I think it will stay monopusher for many decades. Quite a big heavy case, 46 millimeter, if I'm not 46 millimeter. When the people ask me why it's so big, why it's so thick, then I will explain why, and it will have a natural link with actually the philosophy of the brand, and why we have this kind of size and proportion. For the function, I will not spend too much time because you guys are experts. So we just have the hour and the minute in a cathedral shape. We have the second indication with the counter here, the chronograph hands, of course in the middle, and the minute of your chronograph. The Minerva lover aficionado will be happy to see that finally this year we have a bigger logo than before. So what a good surprise. I'm very happy to see this. It's nice. So I think that people can really enjoy and see that the management is also considering that, we need to push them even further because what a story and what the kind of movement. Black dial, you have a nice 2D effect for the index also. Super Luminova, so a very nice watch to see also in action during the night. But I think that we don't need to spend too much time with this, even if we can. But I think that we need to go directly to what the people are looking for. Before I flip the officer case, a new big surprise from the laser technology industry is the goddess Minerva on the back case. who give a very, very fine details. And I was, again, very surprised about the quality that they're able to do. And then let's go for the officer case. Hop-la. And here we are. So we have the 1629 movement Calibre. Carl, I know that you can also give and share your thought about how to place this kind of finishing and quality compared to the big brand. You know, you know that me, I'm less able to do that because I need to be very corporate with my group. And but you maybe have more liberty to do that. Me always, I don't mention brand, but I always like to say that we have the same type and level of finishing that the top brand who are considered as the best finishing. Okay. I also had that time to time, if you're lucky enough as me, as to be a watchmaker who's been able to dismantle plenty of different watches. There's one thing for sure that we're doing is we take care a little bit more about what is not visible. That's maybe also what I will be able to show you in a while, is to let you appreciate actually the extra effort and the extra finishing that we're doing, even if it's not visible. So all my friends from the industry think that we are crazy to making some decoration inside the barrel or this kind of thing, because their mind has been perverse already since too long. So they cannot understand this anymore. But I think that the philosophy to take care about everything visible and invisible has a lot of sense. So this is what happened for this movement. So as you probably know, we're playing with the German silver. So that's the material that we're using since the beginning, since we relaunched all the different movements. Mostly we're going to use the rhodium coating. It's a very Swiss style. We don't let it raw. What else? I mean, balance wheel in-house, air spring in-house. All the stainless steel components are produced inside the building. The Minerva arrow, who now since few years become the devil tails, because some of the collector, I think is in Singapore, recognize the arrow actually as the devil tails. Maybe an extra finishing that unfortunately you cannot see on video because it don't give justice to this, but a simple ratchet. Carl, you know, we still have the machine actually at Villeray, and if I'm not mistaken, there's almost no more machine who are able to do that, but we have some fine chamfering and beveling around every teeth. So I don't have so much remember to see this on modern, good quality watches. I remember about some legacy machine by Mojon and Voutilainen.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have this kind of finishing. If I'm not mistaken, that's the only one I got in mind. I think maybe I forgot some, so I'm sorry, but it's not so common, I will say.
Well, some people ask, and as someone has asked, why a lot of enthusiasts are so heavily into manually wound watches and not automatics. And for one, it's because we don't, we can't wear our watches all the time anyway, so it makes no difference. But it's because if you have unless you have like a perimeter rotor or a micro rotor, which I don't, maybe not, you can't see the beauty and the depth because it's blocked by a rotor. In this case, you have this. If you ever get a chance, I mean, we're going to be opening some of these up later, especially the split seconds that Julian's going to show us. But the depth of these movements is amazing. And Julian, this is a reproduction movement of the original, right?
Yeah, it's the 17/9 movement from the beginning. But as I always mention, it's not a copy and paste from the original movement. So when all the new batch of movement has been developed and constructed back in the days in 2001, 2002, sure, we have the inspiration of the movement, but it's a really, really brand new construction. So I will say that, to be frankly and very honest, if you compare the finishing of the Minerva movement at the beginning of the 20th century and this one, is a totally different league. And I will say that overall, when you are lucky enough to open some vintage watches, the concept of high finishing was not so important. Yes. Reliability was really the key of the quality of your watch, but the finishing was not a must, I will say. So actually we really pimp the movement to become what is it now. Actually, it's something like when you flip the watch, then is a pure beauty for the eyes.
Okay. So would you say then that the more modern movements are more aesthetically distinct because you're able to do the finishing with more intensity than you would early 2000s? Are you able to bring out more of the depth, for example?
I think there's really much more effort has been done in terms of finishing and quality the last 30 years than previously. But I think there was a different philosophy actually. The watch has not this function to create a wow effect when you flip it, and it's why almost all the watch has a case back with cover actually. So you didn't have so many watches with a see-through case back. So I think that overall, the very nice finishing has been done more the last 30 years than before, and some exceptions for pocket watch, because there's some pocket watch who the level of finishing that you have inside was very incredible back in the days.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You have another mono pusher. How different is that from this one?
Okay, I will just put them side to side.
Yes.
I mean, it's the big brother and the little brother. Same philosophy, same blood. We have a smaller one with the 1321. Oh, I forgot to explain why we have so massive watches and thickness. Okay, so the philosophy was really to have this kind of big main plate, and we don't want to do the construction by step on the side, because when you do this kind of construction on by step on the side, that's the way you're able actually to reduce the thickness of your watch. This kind of construction, actually, when you lay a bridge, the bridge has a little step, so you can really reduce the size, and you can start to build your layout on a layout was actually smaller than the original. So it's a really basic construction to have this kind of straight bridge on the external part, and unfortunately or fortunately, it depends the point of view, the things will be like it will expand a little bit the size of the movement, but I will say like for this kind of effort and quality that we do for finishing, bigger is it, better is it, because you can really enjoy and have a beautiful view about that. So for both Calibre is a mono pusher. This one is the Calibre 1321, as I mentioned. For every Calibre, you will have the arrow from Minerva or the Devil Tails. Same story than before about finishing, the inner angle for the V-bridge, the polishing around the ratchet teeth, in-house balance wheel, and so on. So same categories, but same different size.
Okay. Now, we're going from these mono pushers to the next watch, which you said is, in your opinion, the most complicated of the bunch, which is the split second.
Yes, sir.
Is that, and I think that's the movement that you'll be able to open up later.
Sure.
Yeah, can you show us, can you explain now and then show to us later exactly what the differences are?
Okay, sure. I will compare a chronograph and a split second. I will put them side by side in a few seconds. This one is the new version of a split second for this year. Only limited at 18 pieces with a line gold, as we mentioned in the introduction. I love the concept about the telemeter. I think this scale in the middle actually is a well done design regarding the past. After the R&D from Montblanc decided to surprise a little bit the audience with another alloy. So congratulations to them. I think it's like it gives a quite cool effect. I think the design team has done a very good job also with the index. This green color match very well the case. I also think that when you see the new book leather strap, I think that it matched very well the overall of the watch. So actually, yeah, it's a very massive watches and quite a little bit thick, if we can see like this, huh? But then when we turn it, this is where the magic comes actually.
Yeah, see, that's gorgeous.
So basically, a split second is an extra indication of time that you can add on top of your chronograph. So it means that, as we know, for a chronograph monopusher, we need to have one column wheel who will let you do the start, the stop, and the reset. And for a split second, we need to have an extra column wheel who will let the split second start or stop. So difficult to see also with the video. I hope that soon we can see the watch together in live. But the first column wheel here is for the chronograph function, the start, the stop, and the reset. And here we have the second column wheel who will activate and do the start and stop of your split second. So of course the function. I start from the beginning. So you have the two hands, and for the people who don't really know, I think it will be difficult on picture. Okay, forget it. But we have hour, minute, we have the second, and we have the chronograph minute counter here. And in the middle, because it's a split second, we don't have one chronograph hand, we have two hands. So actually, when you use your monopusher at 3, both hands will start to beat and run together. And because it's a split second, when you decide to, you can actually stop one of the hands. The chronograph hand is still running. You press again, and as a split second rattrapante, one of the hands will go back, and then they continue their journey around the dial together. And then you can press here, and you can go back to 0. So this is the effort that we have done this year in terms of complication. I don't know if you have any question about the split second, or I continue maybe 2-3 minutes to talk about that.
Yeah, we have one question. It has to do with another type of chronograph, which is a flyback. What's the difference and which one is more complicated?
Okay, flyback is definitely less complicated because the flyback is a chronograph can be flyback. Okay, so with only one hand, when you decide, you can ask to your chronograph hands to go back to 0, and she will continue to turn. So actually, split second is really another extra layout of spare part that you need to add on your basic movement. You can have a flyback with only one column wheel. Okay, so it's definitely much more difficult and much more complex with the split second than a flyback.
Okay. We have a question about that in particular from Joey. It says the movement looks great and he loves the crock on the inner part of the strap. Why is the case so simple when so many other people use a split second or a monopusher? You have a fancier case.
Fancier case. Okay. I think that, for taste and design is so personal. It's so personal, and it's difficult to me to just justify any kind of design about this one because plenty of people will love it and also plenty of people will not really love it. Do we need to have something very extravagant when we're talking about 1858 and Minerva? I don't think so. So I don't consider that it's very personal, but I don't consider that we need to have something very I would say very punchy or something like not so classical in terms of shape and design. But I totally respect any taste from anyone. Million reasons to love a watch. Million times you can find something that you don't like that your neighbors will love. So this is why it's beautiful. I mean, it creates a lot of things, a lot of emotion for a lot of people.
Okay. Now, did you want to say anything more about the split second, or do you want to go to the Pithagore?
Okay, last things about the split second, and because we always talk about finishing for Minerva, and I also love to explain that when you start to do the complication and when you start to build the different spare parts, we always have some extra material to do the perfect function by hand and synchronize actually all the different spare parts working with the column wheel. So that's also a part that I like to highlight, because it's also a very important part that do your second hand start really at the right moment when you press your click. If I press very slowly the pusher, am I able to see the chronograph end stop before I hear the click or before the hammer come? And so there's no just a assembling part and polishing part. I think the teaching for Mr. Kabidou back in the days has been amazing and very eyes-opening for most of the people who work there, because it's like you have chronograph and you have chronograph, and you have adjustment by hands, or you have raw from the production area and just do some assembling. So this has also I think a huge value for me, and I know that my ex-colleagues are working hard there to be sure that adjustment of the clutch, the hammer, the stop second, and all are very, very important. I don't want to see a clutch start to move before you hear the click and the hammer. So finishing is very important, the material, but also I will finish to say that you have a very huge technical part for chronograph. If you want to success to do something very perfection never exists, but close to be perfect. So based on our previous discussion is why I say that sometimes we highlight some complication like tourbillon, where actually to success to have a perfect function for a chronograph is extremely difficult and even more demanding.
Okay, thank you. Well, one quick comment I have is that when people look at chronographs, you usually think of having the subdials as more markedly different. Nowadays, different colors like the pandas, but also you'll have a different finishing on them. In this case, it's not like that. For one thing, if you look at how they did the kind of spiraling metering, you're really only using that main second hand, or the two second hands, and that is if you look at that spiraling, that looks like something you would have on a pulsograph, for example, which is what a doctor would use, as opposed to the tachymeter on Daytona. But what I like about this watch is that I still very much like the balance. And while, as an example, yes, a lot of people go really, really funky with split seconds, rattrapants, and so on, and it's very attention getting. I always appreciate a very balanced watch. And that's why in talking about another Montblanc, the 24-hour regulator, it's one of the few regulators that I really like, because it is actually balanced, because they flip the way the whole thing works. 24 hours is below rather than above, so it looks, it makes sense for your day. We can go into that another discussion. But the interesting thing here is that you have this balance here, and this is a very, very classical balance. But the next watch that we're going to look at is also very classic, but in a different way. And it's a good example of how you can make different movements appealing in different ways. The next watch is the Montblanc Heritage Pithagore small seconds, and it is based on the golden ratio. If you guys know design and architecture and so on, you'll see that. And this is a very simple watch. This is the most simple watch in this bunch. It's just basically a time-telling watch. And for those of you that don't know this, the subdial seconds hand was regular before they were able to figure out how to put the second hand on the main central stock, basically. So before it was a full three hand, it was like this. But if you look at the back of this watch, which Julian will show us, you're going to see a whole different interpretation of what beauty is for a movement. So there you go. Yeah,
very, very good introduction. Actually, is very true. Because we were talking about level of finishing in the past. I think the Pithagore from the 40s from Minerva was a very very rough production actually. So I've been very pleased that they try to come again with the iconic name Pithagore and come on the market with something a little bit more nicely done and nicely finished. So for the design of the dial, me personally, I think that I really love the balance between the two different textures from the middle and the external part. And I will really also highlight the different index. But to play with the light with your dial and to see the different texture from the top has been very interesting. So we have to mention that will be a limited edition. So we will only do 148 pieces. We come with a diameter reasonable, I will say, at 39 millimeter. So is as you mentioned precisely, is the most simple three hands watches. But then after it becomes less simple when we want to flip the watch, and then after we have something a little bit more exciting, I would say, than a very simple movement without nothing to talk about. So because we're talking about the golden ratio, please, I invite you if you haven't done, because also I had to do my homework before, and I dig into some Minerva book, and actually there's some very clear picture about where come from the golden ratio when they built the Pithagore movement, and then all become very clear, because we're talking about golden ratios or a triangle base. And actually, you can see in these old books, the old picture, that when you have the picture of the Pithagore in front of you, you will see all the different triangle and all the different connection between the different bridge, the balance wheel, the middle of your movement. So it's like all has sense, and I'm very impressed that back in the days, they have this idea to say that, let's bring something not perfect. Perfection don't exist, but let's bring sense in terms of construction for this movement, and it's a success, because when you see when you open some old Pithagore, and it's the case for this one, you have a kind of natural smooth balance that it's almost impossible to explain actually. If someone from the construction department wants to making something very pleasant to see and very smooth, I think you cannot success to that. So when you flip the watch, actually you have a kind of warm feeling that all is at the right place at the right time at the right moment. So that's really the things I really love about this watch for this year, is the way it has been constructed, and frankly speaking, when you flip your case, all seems to be at the right place. There's nothing that me personally, there's nothing that I will put somewhere else, or something a little bit more thick or more large, or change the bridge. So that was a very pleasant surprise to see this year.
Okay, thank you. Could you get any closer to it so we could see the bit of the detail?
Yeah, sure. I will try to go closer, but do you see something?
Yeah.
Can you feel a little?
Yeah. See, so now we can see, for example, you've got what are the different finishes we're seeing? Because we can actually see more finishing here than we can in the.
So perlage for the main plate, so the circular graining, the straight Geneva stripe on top of every single bridge. I think it's very easy when I play with the light and the sun ray finishing on the rochette. Is really something like quite impressive, I would say. I also mentioned this effect come from the machine that we have at Minerva since many decades. So we don't need to have a supplier who charges a bomb to doing this kind of nice finishing. We can do it in-house. So there's a very good point. For the crown wheel is the same. We have this kind of nice finishing. We will have the moulure around every moulure is the edge, the polishing edge that you have around the jewel. So we're talking moulure when you have this beveling around the stone, and you're talking about, in French, découverte when we're talking about the screw. And then people will ask, okay, why you don't have this regulator swan neck? I think is really to preserve this kind of golden ratio from the top, where actually you have a kind of flat surface on the top. I think the swan neck will never match very well with the watch, so well done to the team.
Is there a technical difference between the choice of whether or not to have the swan neck?
I think it's really not to add a kind of visual extra layout on top and keep this kind of plate feeling that you have when you check the watch. And I think it's like, yeah, the goal of this watch is really to highlight the dimension and the proportion of the construction of the caliber. So I think there's more a choice about that, but I'm not so sure. But I think that if I imagine now a quite big swan neck, it will catch my attention. I don't want to have that actually. So that's what I think, but I'm not so sure.
Okay, thank you. Well, okay, so we've looked at this, and we've spent more time looking at the back of the watches than we have looking at the front. So now we're going to go to the Montblanc Star Legacy Suspended Exotourbillon, which allows us to look at the movement from the front. The tourbillon movement is, well, you guys all know what we're talking about. But basically, this is where Julian and I were having a discussion as to, number one, is it actually a complication? Depends on how you define complication. And number two, is it the most complicated? And he thinks it's not. So Julian, please talk us through the Suspended Exo Tour. Okay,
so now you put me in trouble.
I did, didn't I? Sorry.
I'm joking.
It's all my fault.
Okay. No, we were frankly speaking, we were talking about tourbillon, and I will say that that will be not my choice in terms of construction. I can give you some. Okay, I'm always able to talk about a bit about the watch in terms of the guilloche with the different texture of the guilloche, but at the end it's just a simple watch to give you the hour and the minute, and then of course with the tourbillon you can get the indication of the second. But as yourself and your audience is quite passionate about watches and technique and some story, I can tell you actually the story of the Exotourbillon. So the Exotourbillon actually was an invention from Minerva and Mr. Cabidou since quite long time actually. So we need to try to find something new. We don't want to do a regular tourbillon that everybody is doing over and over. So actually, it comes from a simple idea that if we remove actually the balance wheel out of the cage will be lighter. And if the cage is lighter, it means that I can use the extra energy to add another complication. So the Exotourbillon, the first Exotourbillon, come on a Montblanc watches, where actually we have a chronograph, and then we decided to add a split second on it because actually we have too much energy. And I was the one who's doing the prototyping of the Exotourbillon, the first one, and we're using the classical spring barrel box that we plan is gonna be okay. And when I still remember like it was yesterday, but when I've done the assembling of the first Exotourbillon, I called Mr. Cabello and I said, we have too much energy now. So the calculation that we had for a regular tourbillon compared to an Exotourbillon, actually, we had too much energy. And then we decided to use this energy to add a split second function on the chronograph one. So the concept that let's make it lighter to save energy, it actually works. And I was really, really blown away about that because I unwind the watch fully with the full power. And then on my Vichy machine, my accuracy machine, I cannot get any more a line because actually it was overbanking the balance wheel, so we have really too much energy. So based on that, it has been a patent. So again, in Switzerland, we don't give a patent just for fun. You need to go with your technical plan. You need to show your product. You need to meet the people there. They study, they compare, they check if it has been before or not. And it's not purely aesthetic. It should be also technique. So to get a patent for a new kind of tourbillon, I think that all the team was very proud about that. So then after we have different versions. We Montblanc and Minerva, they adapt the Exotropion for I will say a much more commercial price range. But as I like to say generally, is Montblanc is able to create something different. It's not just copy and paste from the past and just doing a little bit better. So that was the story for the Exotropion. So at the end, it's a complex one, but there's more pieces and components in this watch than the split second that we have here. So the discussion we have before, that was really about the time that we need to produce the watch and so on. Just a little bit of a commercial part. Only 58 pieces for this watch in rose gold. And let's have a view about the movement also as well. So when it comes from Villeret and when you flip the case, you have no doubt, you know where it comes from.
Yeah, see, I still like the split seconds back. Those are my favorite, no question. And in terms of complications, I would go with over a tourbillon, I would go with split seconds, or I'd go minute repeater. I would go with the simplest minute repeater as my favorite complication. So this particular Exotropion has no, it's just a time telling function, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how did you handle the excess energy?
This I think based on the first prototyping that has been done, actually they resupply a spring barrel a little bit less thick, a little bit less long. So they do a new calculation based on the new kind of evidence about this system actually. But there's some very challenging part about the Exotropion, especially for this size. Is the length of your axis of your balance wheel, because actually it's a very long balance wheel axis. Would start from the anti-shock system on top and finish here. So we're talking about few millimeter of length, and it's always very challenging to produce this kind of axis with a very long length and be very super precise, because then it will create many issues. So yeah.
You're talking about the axis of the cage, or you're talking?
I'm talking about the axis of the balance wheel, because the balance wheel, the axis will start from the top, the top here, and will go through the case until this space here.
Okay.
So it's a very long one. It should be very concentric actually. So very challenging.
Now let's go deeper into the stuff we never see. Can we go quickly into the movement you have for us?
Okay, so Calibre 1321, a bit dismantle. You know how difficult it is to get some very good focus for watchmaking. It's always a big headache. So sorry for the quality. I think that we will be a little bit short to do a full assembling of the movement for the chronograph. So if you don't mind, I will a bit focus about what I told you in introduction, is the things that the people cannot see on the movement.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So maybe what we have under the dial and so on. Okay, before I flip the movement, I have here one of the Minerva bridge, of course. So the one. Alors, I will not talk about brand or comparison because nobody like this, but when you flip the different spare parts from some of the brand I used to know, is not really often, or time to time, they go for shortcut that do we really need to do the perlage underneath? Do we skip this kind of thing? So I will say that the feeling that I've got, and it's very personal, I think that more we go further and less we have some nice finishing when it's not visible. So I always try to highlight this because that makes to me a very big difference in terms of value. So that was for the bridge, but I obviously I can do that with any kind of spare part.
Can we ask a quick question? There's a bridge, there's a shape in the watch that it's supposed to be basically inspired by the mountains that the watchmakers see.
Okay. Well, this story. Okay.
Could you identify that?
Yeah, that's the V form. So actually, from the factory, you have a kind of chain of mountain in front of the factory of Villeret, and some of the shape of the mountain between two mountains, you have a kind of valley. So you have a kind of V, and the tradition said that the V form of the bridge has been invented and done because one of the watchmakers back in the day saw this little V valley between two mountains, and he has the inspiration to do the design of the bridge.
Okay, thank you.
So that's one of the story.
When you pick those up, do you ever worry about scratching them?
Not this one, because this one is a presentation movement. So thanks God the zoom is not so good because they are really is really not what you can have in the different watch that we have seen, the final product. This one I use it generally as a presentation movement. Okay, I wanted to show you maybe one thing also is when I remove the balance wheel. So the balance wheel is done in-house and with the 18 screw in gold. On this one we have the swan neck, but how does it look under? Sometimes it's very interesting. I don't know, video don't do justice, but also something that we don't have so much and I cannot really enjoy is actually this. In French, we call that a gouge. A gouge is a kind of circle, shining circle that you have around the balance wheel. So actually, when the balance wheel is moving from right to left, this gouge, this polishing gouge that we have here, will give a nice contrast also. So I invite you to try to spot some of this finishing somewhere else. Is also a bit difficult to see. And of course, when you...
So you would only see that in flashes as the balance wheel moves?
Yeah, exactly.
You would never see it or if it was stopped. So
actually, on top of this gouge, you mostly have the balance wheel. So when you check on the side, then it becomes a bit visible. But it's all this extra attention who give actually the value of the watch, because it's something that you will notice after a while. There's always a little texture or a play of color or something that you can see after you own your watch for 1 month, 2 months. Then you will discover another things and then another things. Just again, under the balance wheel, we have the perlage, all the little perlage here, and maybe I'm gonna just flip the watch. I think we will do another session with a better video, and I will show you the details of every single part, because every component has something very cool to see and to witness. And
one thing to point out here is that what we're looking at, you're never going to see because it's behind a dial.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think this is where we can do the difference also. If we need to do the difference, I think this is where we can really push a little bit our argument about Minerva and Montblanc is about the things that the people cannot see, and I'm always very surprised that they don't highlight this, because that's it has sense. It's like when you step into a Rolls Royce, open every drawer, check under the seat. the stitching is nice, all is beautiful, even that you cannot see it. And I think that this kind of philosophy can also be done for movement when we're talking about high hand and nice finishing movement. But you can always go a bit further. This is all the mechanism that we need to do the setting of the watch as well as the winding, and then every single part we will do the beveling and chamfering by hand, with the different graining. We can see the sun ray also of the barrel. There's so many examples and not enough time actually.
So you see the sun ray of the barrel, but you barely see it.
Yeah, so most of the people we say just do a sandblasting finishing for your barrel, because at the end nobody can see it, you know. But I think again it's very unique. It's very unique. I mean, you need to have some people like back in the days, Mr. Kabidou, who say like, okay, I got unlimited budget doing watch. So let's have fun. I mean, let's don't stop to what is visible, but let's go a little bit more. Let's do a little bit more. I mean,
and all that adds cost. All that adds cost, time, complication.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And what happens when you have to service that thing? Does that cause any additional problems because you now have a very highly finished surface?
No. Because actually, it's like finishing. I mean, it's not because the watch is highly finished that is different than the dismantling or the assembling of a regular watch. You need to have extra care. I personally take care about all these watches in Asia because I'm very close with the team. But I will say that a watch is a watch, you know. But you need to watch out, because if you do a scratch on a main plate who has no decoration and just sandblasting, the cost of the main plate is maybe 50 euro. But when you do a scratch on the main plate who has been beveling, chamfering, perlage, and so on, then the cost is 500. So it's not the same story. So you need to use extra care. But I will say that it's a different concept.
500 difference.
Yeah, but for everything, I mean, it's
because of all the work. That's what people don't realize when they ask us why these things are so expensive. We have a quick question from Cap, because we were talking so much about all the finishing, which I find hugely interesting. What are the other distinctive things about Montblanc and the Minerva movements that made them special besides the heavy finishing?
I really, frankly speaking, is like I don't think there's something that I can add more in what makes them so special, because I mean at the end it's chronograph monopusher, so it's not the most, I will say, a common complication, but there's not plenty of brands who's doing monopusher, and when they're doing monopusher with this kind of quality, it costs you a bomb. But it's like design or branding, I cannot do anything. It's like it's very personal choice. Me, the only thing I can do and explain and try to still fight for it even now is just like, if you have interest about finishing, craftsmanship and tradition, and you want to have something who's got value for it, I really honestly think that there's no other choice. But what can I say? If I have no interest about finishing, craftsmanship, I mean, my vision is different, but all our collectors in Singapore, their journey starts by, it's a Montblanc watch. And then because you spend time with them, because you explain, because you show, because you dismantling, and you compare, then it becomes, I don't say it's a natural choice, but we have a very huge community in Singapore now, because people are just happy and confident to wear it, and they don't have any problem to explain why they're wearing a so expensive Montblanc, because it's a good deal. So I think that at the end, finishing make the things very desirable for me.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for that. We have had a wonderful afternoon that's now moved into evening, speaking with Julien Mirabelle. He has brought us into the world of Minerva and Montblanc. And he's talked a little bit, and we want to talk more, we don't have the time, about all the little things that go on. I appreciate very much that he spent his time with us. We've been trying to explain to people for quite a while that, the world is more than just simple sports watches.
Yeah.
You know, there's a whole level of intricacy and detail that goes into these things, and these are hand created movements. They're hand created finishes. Even just the finishing alone, whether you're choosing to bevel one way or you're choosing to finish with powder or finish with a liquid or finish with sandpaper. These are all choices, and sometimes they have all of those finishing processes in one watch, and yet you never see it. The example being the what goes behind the mainspring. You're never going to see that except in flashes, but to them it's important enough. So what we wanted to do here, and this is why I wanted to do this, why we agreed to do this with Montblanc, is because on one hand they have these really great simple daily wear watches, but on the other hand they have just this level of intricacy that is far rarer than most people realize, and we wanted to bring them into it. So anyway, thank you very, very much, Julian. Thank you, everyone. Let us go back to Dina, who brought us into all this in the first place. Thank you very much. Hi, Dina. Thank you for letting us run on longer than we should have.
Oh, not a problem. It's actually, I want to thank you and I want to thank Julian I personally learned a lot today. And I actually thank you, Carl, for giving us the platform to reach some more watch enthusiasts here in Manila. And I won't keep you guys for too long. I just wanted to, say that we are pleased to inform you that starting today, we just have a special promotion. Of course, we want everyone to come into the store, and we want to assure you also of our safety protocols in store. But in case you want to touch and feel any of the other sort of watches, of course, this collection is traveling right now, and it's in Singapore. So of course, if you need more information about this collection that was presented to you today, we would be happy to assist you as well. So anyway, our promotion is here. It's receive a complimentary Montblanc Explorer perfume on every purchase of the high complication timepiece. And until August 31st, we have participating bank partners where you can avail of 0% 36 months installment. We have a personal shopper that can assist you from home, or as I mentioned earlier, we can also assist you in the store. We have in this event our store team, so they're eagerly waiting to answer any of your questions, and we can show you stuff online, on your phone, or in the store again. That sums up our watchmaking event, and I do thank everyone for staying this long. We hope to do a lot more of these, and we hope you really had a good time. Thank you, Benjamin Go from Montblanc, and of course, Mr. Julian Mirabelle. And Carl, thank you so much. We're definitely going to be doing a lot more of these in the future.
We should. They're very fun.
Yes. So I wish you all had a great evening. Thank you.